And my favorite thing about social media is the degree to which you can disabuse people of that notion if you do it right, because the access to eyeballs and audience members and brains is so unprecedented and so international. The way that you can use technology to embed actual video, to have a blog that gives the illusion of being behind the scenes at an organization, a little bit of insight into how decisions are made, not to be transgressive or subversive or give, proprietary information away, but just to let people know what goes on there, that there are individuals who work there, real people with real thoughts, and some of them are and all of those things that give people any way in you can give them, even if it's non-traditional, and then to trust them to sort of find their way through and find their level and figure out what's of value to them once you get them there. And that the way to get them there is exactly this business of trust and personal relationships and making them feel valued, because the one thing that arts organizations in this country have traditionally not done is make the average citizen feel that they are of value to the audience. And that is something that the great leveler of humor and personality that these many different kinds of communication strategies that the internet and other things offer, it's really like a perfect match. You want to accomplish this, and here are all the tools that you need to accomplish that, sort of ready-made. And it also, and then the glue that holds that together are going to be people in the younger generation who actually understand how the technologies work and can sort of form that bridge between the two camps of the people in authority who are producing culture and the people that it's intended for, which should be, sort of everyone. And so I think that on the whole, the internet technology, has made, it's sort of like be careful what you wish for, and a range of options being a mixed blessing and all of that, because this is what everybody has been crying out for. How do we reach people? How do we reach people? Well, you can reach everyone. Now, what are you going to say to them now that you have them? You can't just say the same old thing, because the medium, sort of is the message just a little bit. There's something to be said about an organization that's savvy enough to embrace the technologies in the first place, and that's something worth following up on. And also, like I keep saying, it really highlights the value of what a younger generation can contribute to the conversation and to the broader culture, because for the most part, we're better at this stuff. And when I say we, I mean people younger than I am. I pay someone to handle the Twitter and Facebook at Flavorpill, because even though I kind of get it, I really don't actually totally understand how Twitter works myself. But see, I can admit that, and now somebody else has a job, right, who does know, right? And that person who thinks Flavorpill's great and knows how Twitter works has a job because of both. And that sort of synthetic, not meaning artificial, but meaning synthesized way of approaching culture and life, that these technologies are making available, I think is really, sort of something that can mainstream art appreciation in our society, which of course, is the goal, I believe. And so those are kind of like the things, and I'm really bad at keeping an eye on time, but I have a feeling. Somebody tell me when there's a couple of minutes so that there can be questions and stuff like that. Okay, because I just get going, and then, that was the other thing also. The thing about Facebook, and partly how it's changed these technologies too, is they're free, right? But they're free, but you probably should invest in hiring somebody like a social media intern who knows how to use them. But that's still going to be like a third of the price of having some kind of crazy web designer that's holding you hostage, and every time you want to make a little change, you've got to call the guy, and he's in like Hawaii or whatever, right? Laughing because see? Right. And so the beauty of these things is that you can also sort of be hands-on, and that as an administrator at different levels in an organization, you can have a direct communication with your audience without sort of, circumventing your bosses and things like that. I love the blogs at galleries where they sort of talk about a little bit of the drama behind the making of a show, not too much, not TMI, not that it subverts your authority, but, just a little bit of insight into sort of how things how things came to be, any insight into the process, into the thinking process, the decision-making process. All of these are ways in for people who come from outside of the art world. It may not be fascinating to us because it's like the crap we deal with at work all day, every day, but I promise you, it is dispelling the mystery that enshrouds the art world. That is one of the barriers from reaching new audiences. They don't understand it. If you can get a little bit of it's just like anything out to them, that's really helpful. And also the sort of low risk of using free media outlets like that means you can do experimental things like hire artists to do your webpage or hire artists to do a project. We were talking a little bit at lunch about how at the moment my model for the most successful use of arts to propagate a message, a brand message right now in Los Angeles is the Metropolitan Transit Association or Authority, MTA, because they've got a whole program of posters and in buses, on subways, bus shelters, benches, ads, I think, in magazines and things, where they commissioned a bunch of contemporary artists living and working in LA to do mirror images that highlighted the individual characters of different neighborhoods in Los Angeles. And they're gorgeous, and you see them everywhere. And there's no real meaning, but it makes you sort of feel better about taking public transportation, which is its own reward. And it makes you kind of think, well, the people running the MTA have this consciousness of art. I personally look at those and I think, oh my God, they hired artists, right? Like, so someone's writing artist checks. Amazing. Okay, very enlightened policy. It probably cost a lot less than hiring, Chiat Day to do a visual ad campaign that would have just been sort of some kind of antiseptic graphic, no matter how cool it was. And it's this really beautiful thing. I mean, and so, would you ever in a million years have thought that the MTA would be the leader on incorporating contemporary visual art in their corporate brand? No. But there they are, and it works. And now their web materials are gorgeous, and everything is unusual and beautiful from that. And, those kinds of things, I think are, and then when that happens, that becomes a sort of level of visual culture on its own that exists outside of criticism and the media, but at the same time, as a media person, I'm very clued into that as I move through the city. And so, when Joan was talking about those LA Phil campaigns, I remember those. And they were really kind of cool because they were really different. Now, people have picked up on it pretty quickly in the wake of them. But, those ideas of, not talking about content, you must understand why this painter is important, but just you can feel better about your relationship to contemporary culture. You can feel like the smart, intelligent person that you already are. It's never too late to embark upon a career of art appreciation in your life. And the more that organizations can do to demonstrate that to people, the better. And so on the one hand, book rock bands because it will get people up to the Getty. Flavorpill did that for a while. It's completely true. It totally works. But, those are people that are already kind of maybe, culture-y a little. What about just somebody who, is a lawyer somewhere and just feels like, the mall is boring? How do you talk that person into going to a museum? And how you do it is you make it accessible, you make it less intimidating, and you bring it to them, and you make them feel, valued and sort of like respected and worthy, and you give them a little bit of a place to start navigating this crazy uncharted sea of art appreciation. Why not have it be at your museum or at your organization or at an event sponsored by your organization? That may be the place that somebody begins a whole new chapter in their life that involves being engaged with contemporary art. And that is something, that you can give them, even though maybe you can't control where it goes after that, and maybe they become a member of LACMA instead or something. And that's, but the point is, you've given them a way in. You have to sort of assume that they want that. and that they can't be sort of browbeaten into it. You have to really sort of bring the mountain to Muhammad a little bit. And in that note, I also want to tell another funny story about Facebook. Here's the thing about Facebook. Everything you write on there stays there forever, even if you delete it. Okay? So that is something to keep in mind. And here's another thing that happens. You may be the administrator on the Santa Monica Museum of Art Facebook page. But somebody on there is going to search for you by name while they're on the Santa Monica Museum website. They're going to see that an event was created by you, and they're going to think, well, are you on there? And then they're going to friend you. And then they're going to know how drunk you got at your sister's bachelorette party or whatever it is. And that's sort of unavoidable. But I just want to say a quick story about not being too worried about that. Okay, because it's like you can't help it. Which I did an interview a while ago for Juxtapose, the photography issue. And by a while, I mean like in 97 or something, with Viggo Mortensen, who wasn't really famous yet then, but was already really, really, really hot. And I don't remember a lot. Like I have the tape of the conversation, and halfway through it, he had to sort of go, I think your tape ran out. And I was like, really? But in the middle of it, he said something really amazing, which he later repeated to Vanity Fair, and so most people read it there, but that's okay, which has to do with how he was handling fame. And really, that's kind of what we're talking about a little bit with this ubiquity of access to personal information is really like the same as fame, right? How do you deal with it? People you don't know stuff about you. Oh, my God. And what he said was that, you can't fake authenticity in your dealings with the public, but you can give an illusion of access. And what he said was, his famous quote was, "Eat the mask," meaning you can kind of beat this stuff at its own game by giving just enough information that it gives the illusion of people knowing something a little special about you that doesn't really harm or hurt anyone's reputation or position, because it's kind of known that it's a semi-personal format, but you can still use it to aggregate and turn things back around. So for example, I posted information about this on my Facebook page, and I had a number of people say, okay, I'm going to click. But the post I put that had the most people liking and commenting on it was the one I did at about midnight last night that said, okay, I got to go to bed because the Getty thing starts early. Well, I'm going to watch TiVoed Project Runway and then go to bed. 15 people liked that. Why? I think because they know that it's kind of funny that even though I'm this big famous art critic and I'm giving this talk at the Getty at 10 in the morning, that I'm going to watch Project Runway at midnight before I go to bed. Does that make me less of an authority on contemporary practice in video art or whatever? No, of course it doesn't. But it lets people sort of go, oh, hey, she's a real girl and that's kind of funny. And so that sort of wraps up all of these threads of like Deutschbag and humor and authority and audience and intelligence and respect and access points and ways in, those kinds of anecdotes. And I think that is sort of, in the end, a pronouncement. The way that it's changed the landscape is that it's made it a lot more personal, for better or worse, but the good news is that you have total control over it now in a way that you didn't before. So use it wisely. That's it.